all this emphasis on Andrew Cuomo and his incompetence and his bullying and his all the accusations about not only his personal behavior, but the disgraceful, decrepit way he sent senior citizens to their deaths in New York by his horrific mandate that nursing homes must accept COVID-19 patients. But it's not just Cuomo. How about the state of Pennsylvania? I saw Representative Guy Reschenthaler. I have the hardest name with his name, and I can't wait to welcome him and thank him, and I'm going to call him Guy because I think I'm allowed to. But he's a great guy. He's a politician, attorney, judge, Navy veteran, Republican representative from Pennsylvania's 14th Congressional District. I saw him over the weekend on TV, and I said to my producer, Derek Klingel, get me Guy. Here he is on our guest line and on Skype. He joins us here on the Mike Gallagher Show. It's great having you, sir, on the program. If you say it one time, I swear I'll get it right. Reschenthaler.
Mike, first off, you call me Guy anytime. Just call me Guy, but it's
Thank you.
Reschenthaler. But again, it's just Guy, please.
There's so many vowels in there and so many. I mean, you got a good Irish last name. I love it. So, it's Reschenthaler. I can say it. I'm not going to get tongue-tied. And you sure aren't tongue-tied in your very pointed criticism of the Democrat governor in Pennsylvania, Tom Wolf. So thank you for joining us, Congressman.
Thanks,
Can
Mike.
you talk a little bit about the actions of Tom Wolf? Because with all the focus on Cuomo, I'm not sure that people realize around the country that Tom Wolf is right up there in the cartoon villain category of inept governors.
I'd actually argue that Tom Wolf is worse than Governor Cuomo, and I can get to that. But let's think about the beginning of this pandemic. And by the way, I was with Tom Cotton saying this came from a lab in Wuhan, and I took the arrows at the beginning of this, but that's a whole nother topic. But at the beginning,
let's start. No. Let's start from the beginning. Let's start from Wuhan,
sure.
Because this is such a breathtaking story. Now even Lord Fauci is saying, well, I think we should investigate this. I'm not convinced that this wasn't natural when that's all they've been telling us. Explain to us if you were and go back to the beginning when you were raising the alarms about about COVID-19 coming out of the Wuhan lab.
Sure, Mike, I'd appreciate that. So about a year ago, this started to seem to me that this came from a lab in Wuhan, and there were a lot of reasons for it. Look, I majored in political science. I've got a law degree. But the fact that a lot of these issues raise concern with me, a non-scientist, shows you that the so-called experts were either corrupt, they were either lying to us, they were engaged in what we would call willful blindness, where they were ignoring obvious evidence. And here's what it is. There was a lab in Wuhan that was a BSL-4 lab, biosafety lab number 4, the highest rating you can get. And we know that American tax dollars were going to that lab to study gain-of-function research, where you took a virus that took place in nature, you played with it, tinkered with it, made it contagious to humans. Sometimes you increase the lethality of it, or you increase the transmissibility rate. And we know that we were sending money to that lab in Wuhan to study just that, gain-of-function research. Additionally, they were doing experiments with bats. Now, here's why the conspiracy theory was that this originated in a wet market. The bats that they were using were 1,000 miles away, Mike, 1,000 miles away. Additionally, in the state of nature, this virus was not as contagious. So if you were to believe the conspiracy theory that this came from a wet market in Wuhan, you'd have to believe that a bat 1,000 miles away traveled to Wuhan. On its way there, infected nobody and no other creature. Then that disease became 20% more contagious than it is in nature. Also, you'd have to totally ignore the fact that the Chinese had the BSL-4 lab there that was coincidentally run by the PLA. The general in charge of it runs the bioweapons program, the biological weapons of mass destruction program in the Chinese Communist Party, the PLA. And then you'd have to believe that it was a coincidence that this virus then spread in Wuhan, the very place that has the BSL-4 lab, studying this. Now, I just want to come full circle. I was writing letters a year ago. I wrote letters to the DOD, to Secretary Esper. I wrote letters to USAID. I wrote letters to the Department of Homeland Security. I said, how much money went where? We now know USAID has gotten back to me. They spent $1.1 million on gain-of-function research that went to EcoHealth Alliance and then sent the money to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. DOD has not gotten back to me, but we know that that we know that NIH sent at least $600,000 to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So at least about $2 million of U.S. taxpayer money went to the Wuhan Institute of Virology to study gain-of-function research under the command of a PLA general who was studying biological weapons of mass destruction.
I mean, what's so fascinating about this, first of all, one of the questions is what if this is true, and if this virus accidentally escaped from a lab, and that's what the evidence appears. I've read the Wall Street Journal reporting pretty closely, and that's what the suggestion is, that it wasn't a nefarious effort to bring down the world or anything. It was a mistake. It was a terrible, terrible accident where this lab leak occurred. First of
Mike,
all, you've got China's.
Can I just jump in real fast? Because I don't even like giving the Chinese a pass on that. It may have been an unintentional leak from the BSL-4 lab. What was not unintentional was the worldwide spread. And let me explain that.
Correct.
When the Chinese Communist Party knew that they had a virus that was basically leaked from this BSL-4 lab, what did they do? They shut down interior travel in mainland China from Wuhan, yet they allowed international travel to places like Italy, Iran, etc. So they intentionally spread this disease. Their theory
millions of people, Congressman, left China when they knew they had a major problem, and they didn't do anything to thwart to slow the spread by refuse. Millions of Chinese people left that nation. You're so right.
They did two things. They allowed this virus to spread out of Wuhan, and also they lied to the world. Remember, it was the Chinese Communist Party and the World Health Organization saying that this virus spread animal to person. That's nonsense. They knew back in December that this spread person to person, and we have them dead to rights on this. The Taiwanese told the Chinese that this spread person to person. There was also a study in Hong Kong saying that this spread person to person. Yet the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros, who's a puppet of the Chinese Communist Party, they lied in order for this thing to spread and to inflict the world. And why did they do that? They did it because they knew China was going to take a hit. And everything, of course, is relative. So if China's taking a hit, they wanted the world to take a hit so they wouldn't lose power relative to the rest of the world. Additionally, they stockpiled PPE. If you remember, there were shipments of personal protective equipment coming to the United States. The Chinese turned those boats. Literally, they got those boats to turn around and come back to mainland China.
Well, let's see. The Democrats had about 19, umpteen investigations of the Trump administration. We had years of Russia, colluding with the Trump campaign. Wonder if the Democrats will be in any hurry to try to connect these dots. Visiting with Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, who's talking about not only Wuhan and the lab, and how right he may have been a long time ago. And just one more point on this before we get to your awful governor in the state of Pennsylvania. How about the NIH and Fauci's organization and Francis Collins and the possible complicity of taxpayer dollars winding up helping to fund this research that very well may have been leaked to the world? I mean, are our hands dirty on this, Congressman?
It's not our hands that's dirty. It's the hands of unelected bureaucrats like Dr. Fauci, who thought that he knew better than even Barack Obama. Remember, Barack Obama and the Biden administration were the ones that originally put a moratorium on gain-of-function research. That's why the NIH and others sent the money to EcoHealth Alliance, which then sent the money to the Wuhan Institute of Virology so they could circumvent the spirit of the moratorium that Obama put in place. But of course, who knows better than Dr. Fauci, the unelected bureaucrat accountable to no one, Mike? And let me just say, let me gently push back, and I hate to do this because obviously I'm so grateful for your leadership and your voice. But when I say our hands, I mean the United States. It's one thing to point the finger at China, but we've got corrupt Democrat politicians, and we've got Fauci and all of these kind of institutional, we've got these institutions that have bent over backwards to refuse to hold China accountable. And let's just be clear here in connecting these dots. There's a potential scenario where our dollars could have helped fund this worldwide catastrophe. Is that fair? Well, no, our taxpayer dollars did fund the study that was going on in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. That's irrefutable. And excuse me, I
Irrefutable.
misunderstood you when you said,
Yeah, no, I don't believe me. I'm not
demand.
blaming. I'm not. You know me.
Yeah,
I'm not saying this about. I'm talking about people like the National Institute of Health. And the coddling of China, Congressman,
right.
whether
Well,
it's in the NBA. I mean, it's unreal. What the left is afraid. These huge, because let's face it, they got the big fat checkbook. So if they got the big fat checkbook, go ahead.
Without a doubt. No, excuse me, Mike, you got me all fired up here. No, the people that are to blame are not the people that are in middle America, not the people that are going to work every day raising their families. They're not complicit in this. Who's complicit, though, are the ruling elites. And just like the ruling elites fail to call out China, just like what you were saying, they kowtow to China. Hollywood does, the media does. Hunter Biden came back from China with a $1 billion trust fund, right? The elites of this country, the ruling class, has capitulated to China. And if we can just go back to the
all right, hang on, hold that thought, because I got it. Can you stay with us a few more minutes, Congressman?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. Absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Well, but I got it figured out now. I just spelled it out phonetically. Reschenthaler. I can say Reschenthaler. I'm a broadcaster. I'm 40 years I've been in this business. I can do this, I think. Yeah, but I'll call you Guy too. You call me Mike, and we're going to continue to call on you for some clarity with Tom Wolf, the miserable governor of Pennsylvania. We'll connect those dots here in just a moment. Continuing from Phoenix, we're headed to the border after the show. It has been a horrific year, and this has not been helped. Any of it has been helped by Governor Tom Wolf of Pennsylvania. Give us a rundown of your criticisms of this Democrat and all the mistakes that he has been making in the last year and a half for the citizens of Pennsylvania.
Well, sure, Mike. It first off started with draconian lockdowns, where he was going after businesses that he perceived as against him. Case in point, the coal industry. He shut down a coal mine in my district that is the size of Manhattan. That's no exaggeration. This coal mine is the size of Manhattan. They have 100 or fewer coal miners at any given time in that mine. That sounds to me like it's socially distanced. And he shut that mine down and shut mining down across the state. He also then went after residential construction. We have about 250,000 construction workers in the state. He shut those sites down, even though these jobs are outside. People are distanced on a job site. He shut down road construction when no one was on the road. He shut down those crews. He even shut down, and you got to think about this one for a second. He shut down online car sales. It doesn't get more socially distanced.
Online car sales.
Yes.
What's the risk to buying a car online?
Exactly. You can't make this up. He was draconian. He was absolutely draconian. And as a lawyer, we would say his orders were arbitrary and capricious. Now,
how about the nursing home? How about the nursing home mandate, Guy?
Yeah. So the nursing home mandate was this. He said that if the nursing homes had to accept COVID patients, he mandated that. And he knew this was going to cause, or at least his administration knew this was going to cause death. Case in point, Dr. Levine, who failed upward into the federal government, she took her own mother out of a nursing home facility and put her mother in a hotel. She knew full well that this was going to cause deaths. And in the early stages of COVID, about 70% of all deaths in Pennsylvania were from nursing home facilities and assisted living facilities. Wow. Now it's still over about 50%. But they knew this was dangerous.
They knew it. They knew it. When we get you back, I want to have you come back because it's fascinating to spend time with you, and I want you to tell me whether Pennsylvanians are paying attention, because too many times Pennsylvania voters have gotten it wrong, and they sure got it wrong with this governor. Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, thank you for spending some time with us here on the Mike Gallagher Show. Keep fighting the good fight, sir.